that kind of made me feel like, would anybody ever love me because I have depression? And
You're listening to You OK Home with Miss Greater Manchester Galaxy. Miss Greater Manchester Galaxy supports the Trussell Trust, the Christie's Charity and Mind Mental Health UK. I'm also sponsored by Bursting Wardrobes, which is a pre-loved clothing store. They're based in Ashton and Marcusfield, and you can also check out their website, which is in the bio.
Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of You OK Home with Miss Greater Manchester Galaxy. My name's Paige and here we are to talk all things mental health, body positivity, self-care and everything in between. Just a disclaimer, I am not a mental health professional, I'm a mental health advocate, which means I look to inspire and help in any way that I can, but like I say, I'm not a professional. So I've got a lovely guest on the show today. We've got the beautiful Paige Ashton. So welcome to the podcast, Paige.
hi, thank you for having me.
Not a problem at all. And it's weird talking to somebody with the same name as me. You don't meet many Pages, do you?
You don't, not at all.
I'm talking to myself. So you just want to introduce yourself?
Sure. So, as Paige said, I'm Paige Ashton. I am from London, or I live in London. I am of Caribbean heritage, and I am a financial controller for a sales team at a tech company.
Amazing. So today's episode, we're going to be talking about, it's a bit of a mixture of things, really. We're going to be talking about depression, but we're going to be talking about how you can kind of overcome that and learn to love yourself as well. So if we just get right into it. So at what point of your life did you kind of start feeling like you were suffering with depression? Was it quite young or?
So I would say it was quite young, or looking back now. So I think I was around 13. Didn't realize that I had any issues until I got suicidal around 23. Got help then, but I just kind of thought I had some kind of mental health issue it wasn't really labeled, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I had like cognitive behavioral therapy at that point, I guess, continued. And then last year when I was doing the Miss England, or when I was in the Miss England competition, I was, I guess, trying to be more of an advocate. And that's when I realized, like, going back through everything, I realized I had depression, but also I was in a depressive year. So almost like I realized I had depression, but I also then had to kind of overcome it as well in the same space.
It's amazing that you've overcome it, like, because people just think having depression is you just sad all the time. But it's not the case at all. There's so many other things that come with depression, and to overcome something like that is a big deal. And I think a lot of people kind of, when it comes to mental health, I think depression is probably pushed aside the most out of all the disorders, because people think that it's just like, you know, a month or two stint and then you just come out of it. But you can have depression for your entire life.
I mean, obviously I live with depression, as in it's never going to go away. It is what it is, but it's more about trying to, I guess, reset my mind and make sure every day I'm not thinking of in my head, it's my thoughts. So it's like trying to make sure I'm not going down the dark path and keeping myself on the lighter path. But yeah, I would say even like my depression, I would say I'm probably a high functioning depressive person. So like I can work, I could socialize, but it's almost like my personal life. So cooking for myself, like making sure I'm washing everything, that's where it breaks down for me. So it's like I can keep everything looking like it's going. It's underneath, basically, which is depression as a whole.
I understand that completely, because I'm the same with bipolar. So I'm a high functioning bipolar person, meaning I still got, like, a lot of people always say to me, like, you never thought about going on PIP and things like that, but like I'm more than happy to go to work. Like going to work and having that routine helps me. So it looks like I've kind of got it all together, but then sometimes I really don't have it all together. Especially like you say, when it comes to doing things for yourself, like cooking and cleaning and things like that. Like if you've seen behind me right now, my room is a state and I have no motivation to clean that right now.
Yeah.
So with the depression, was it kind of something that just came on, or was there a trigger for you?
So I think my trigger, so my parents, I guess, separated and then got divorced, and it was around the time I was 13. So it's kind of like, as I said to them, and it's not their fault because they're obviously going through divorce themselves, but we were never asked if we were okay, and
Mhm.
I guess kept upbeat. It was kind of all consuming. And I guess probably this is where the high functioning comes in. I would go to school to get away
Yeah.
from it and make sure I'm like, I guess, learning as much as you can, because I almost thought if I can keep doing this and keep learning and keep growing, I can get away from this situation. But
Mhm.
obviously, you grow up and you realize it's just the way that life
Yeah.
kind of is sometimes.
And it's funny you should say that, because a lot of people don't realise that the way that they was during their childhood was them suffering through something. So I know so many people that have gone, well, really, I've suffered with mental health since I was a teenager or since I was a child. But you don't see it like that, obviously, when you're that age. Only like it just kind of hits you at some point, doesn't it? When, like, for me,
Yeah.
I think it hit me when I was about 21, when I was like, I didn't get ill at 13. I got ill at like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And you don't see it like that until you
When
just
they,
hit a certain age.
I think it's also that we're not taught about it. So it's
Yes.
almost all like, this is why I am a big advocate for mental health education, but we're not taught enough, or just like openly talking about emotions, and that it's okay to be sad, or it's okay to be in any which way that you feel. But
Mhm.
in certain circumstances, if it's for a long period of time, you need to be thinking, am I okay? Do I need to talk to someone I can trust? Do I
Yeah.
need to speak to the doctor? And I think in my head, a lot of, I guess, as having it as a child, if we were taught preventative methods, we
Mhm.
would be able to, I would say, overcome it earlier and not go through this whole period of basically your early 20s, and then you almost rebuild yourself throughout your 20s. I would say that's what I've been doing,
Yeah.
kind of how it feels.
I agree. And I agree with what you said about not being taught about it at a young age. I remember being at school and I only ever remember having one lesson around mental health, but it wasn't an actual lesson. I remember they just stuck a film on about mental health. About it was about a girl who tried to commit suicide, and they
Mm-hmm.
literally just stuck that film on, and that was the lesson. Like, there was nothing taught about it. There was no, have a look at why she did it and things like that. Like, no
Yeah.
analysis. It was literally just that. And we do need to educate people even from such a young age. Like, we need to
Mm-hmm.
educate people on, looking at the signs, not just for themselves, but for other people around them, the peers, classmates,
Exactly.
family members, anything like that. Like, we really do need to have it on the curriculum in schools. And if I could have,
We do actually, but I
oh
don't know
yeah,
how well it's being taught. It got so I think it became, this is me with my whole like mental health
yeah,
education piece. So in like the September of 2020,
oh
so I
okay,
think after the pandemic, it got put on the syllabus in under like PSHE. So kind of like where
yeah,
you also, I think it's a mix between like mental or well-being
yeah.
and wellness, as well as like keeping fit and being healthy for yourself physically and mentally.
Mm-hmm.
So it
Oh,
is, but
that's
I
good.
don't know
I
how
didn't
well it's
know that.
taught. Yeah.
I mean, hopefully they're teaching it to a good standard. Is this in primary schools as well then, or is this just in secondary?
I think I was looking at secondary, but I have a feeling it should be primary. But I
Mhm.
think it's almost like tailored. So if you like, I think it's more you talk about emotions and that piece, and then you go into the greater detail of
Yeah.
different
Mhm.
aspects.
Oh, well, that's really interesting to know. And that's made me a little bit happy knowing that
Mhm.
we are coming into a bit more of a world now where it is being, because you see in workplaces and stuff, workplaces are becoming more kind of, vocal about mental health and whatnot. So I'm glad that it's coming into schools now as well. So
Yeah.
that's a good thing to know. um, so if we go on to the kind of self-love side of things,
Yeah.
um, what would you say is, let's just go straight in. What would you say is the main thing that you love about yourself?
I actually think it's my drive to keep going, and
Mm-hmm.
that's in any situation. So like but I guess for me, looking at the depression side, I'm proud of myself for overcoming it and to keep overcoming it, because I
Yeah.
know that I'm not always going to be in this great place.
Mm-hmm.
And or you have weeks where you're like, I don't know how I'm feeling. And I think for me, I second guess myself because I'm going, oh, am I going back into that?
Yeah.
But actually you can never be on this like state of joy or happiness. Like it just doesn't, it's not something, it's about being content rather than
Yes.
being fully happy.
I completely agree. And there's people out there that think that you need to be this happy, positive person all the time, because that's what we see all over social media. It's what we see, like, you know, people reporting about in the news and things like that. Like everybody thinks that life needs to be perfect, but that's not reality. There's not a single person out there that has got this perfect life and is 100% happy all the time. So I agree. I think self-love comes from knowing that it's not always the case, and it's accepting of that as well.
Yeah, it definitely is. I think it's also not comparing yourself to anyone, because like you said, we look at social media, but it's great for connecting us, like as in I've connected with you, connected with so many different people, but it's also something that's really important is we have to remember it's a highlight of people's lives.
Yeah,
so it's almost like it's a show reel. It's not what goes on day in, day out, because I guess my social media looks like I'm just like a pageant person in dresses most of the time, when actually I spend my day like 9 to 5 working on the laptop. So
yeah.
It's,
we
it's
don't
not
always
as
look as
glamorous.
glamorous as we do in, in pageants, do we?
No, not at all.
So just while we're on the topic of pageants, actually, I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions about it. So how do you feel that doing pageantry helps with your mental health?
So it definitely helps me be more confident, and I guess the self-love element, and it's helped me so much in my personal and in my work life as well. I think on my mental health, it's something I always have to remember, because in pageants, as we know, it is meant to be a marathon, but sometimes it's a sprint when you're trying to get everything sorted. So then you can kind of forget that you need to keep or I know I have to keep myself in check. So that's almost like something I build in to me running up to a pageant, to ensure that I keep that, or keep myself mentally well. Otherwise I would probably go into like some kind of spiral, just because that's what would happen.
Yeah, no, I agree. And pageants are obviously, they're great, absolutely, I recommend them to absolutely everybody, but they can take a toll on you, and it's because pageantry is such a big hobby. Like, people don't realize how much of a big hobby it is. Like,
it's a second job, but it's a full-time job, just you do it as a second job.
Yeah, you do, but you pay for it. You don't get paid to do it.
Yeah, it's true. It's so true.
But it's like, for me, doing pageantry helps with my mental health, because it gives me that focus, it gives me that something to put my mind to, but then at the same time it does give you the added stress as well. So it has got kind of its ups and downs. So was last year the first year that you competed, or had you competed before that?
2021, first time I competed. I started like the process in 2020, but then because of COVID and the restrictions, everything kind of got pushed to 2021. And most of what I did was virtually rather than in person. So it's been nice this year to actually be part of pageant land and actually enjoy the whole process of it. Because even doing Miss England, we knew each other, but we knew each other from social media, and we only got to, I guess, even then we didn't really get to meet properly. So there are people I probably never spoke to that I actually probably would really enjoy getting to know, but because of just the way it was set up and because of COVID, it was almost like you don't get that opportunity.
You competed with one of my best friends in Miss England as well, you know, Eleanor Farr.
Oh yes, I do.
She's one of my really good friends. I watched you at Miss England, so I knew you before you knew me. And would you say, so we'll go back onto the topic of self-love, why do you think that self-love is an important quality to have?
I think so. I guess going through another depressive episode, I don't know if it's an episode or it's a year, or coming out of that and like having to work on, or I guess I had therapy, so I did behavior activation. And it's almost that I needed to reset my mind in that I wasn't unworthy. So just to put some more context around it, as as I was starting my counselling, I also was broken up with, which is okay because I knew the relationship needed to come to an end. I guess I was just going through so much. I'm also a bit of a people pleaser, so I couldn't do it. And that kind of made me feel like, would anybody ever love me because I have depression? And it's not to say like that's natural, that's not valid. So even like going through with the therapist, because that was the last session, and she said that maybe you feel unworthy of love, but then flip it back. And I was like, well, I've got all my friends, I have my family, and they show me love like time and time again. And it's about me now finding it for myself, because if I can't find it, then why do I expect to get it from somebody else? I think that's what I've started to think about, and I think that's what's carrying me through. So it's almost like focus on myself and how I'm going to be, this great person, but this great person in my head, and focusing on that is what's driving me to continue with my life and continue with going for everything and anything that I want to go for.
No, I completely agree, because I never used to like myself, and I used to be this like big negative person about myself, and I never had any self-love, and that's why my relationships in the past have never worked. So you need to have that love, and you need to have that loving, spending time by yourself and loving who you are as you are, before, not even just in relationships, but like friendships and anything like that comes into play. Like you need that self-love to build bonds with other people, I think.
You definitely do. I think you can almost bring in negative energy into yourself as well, because you almost are drawing to, no, it's not to say people are negative, but you can draw to negative people or people that aren't good for you, because they almost fuel your thoughts that you're already thinking negatively about yourself. And actually, as I get stronger and the self-love is there more, you understand that there are better boundaries to have with certain people, and you need to state them before you go in, or you need to say them as it happens, rather than coming back on the situation.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I agree with everything that you've said, and honestly, I could have wrote everything that you've just said then. It is a journey, isn't it? It is a journey to go through, and people don't realise how much of a journey it is to go through. So the fact that you've managed to do that is absolutely admirable and amazing. So well done you, and keep at everything that you're doing. So I've just got one last question for you. Now yours is going to be a two-parter, because we've spoken about two topics today. So I always ask everybody this: what would your one piece of advice be to somebody who is going through the same as you? So if you give one piece of advice in regards to somebody who feels like they're going through a depression phase, or is somebody who thinks they've got depression, and somebody who maybe is struggling with self-love.
So I always say speak to someone you trust, because a problem shared is a problem halved, as long as you're speaking to the right person. But they will also help you get the help that you need. That's my short and sweet answer.
That's an amazing answer, and you couldn't have put it any better, to be honest with you. It was amazing. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Paige. You've been absolutely amazing, and it's been great to hear your side of things as well. Thank you very much, everybody, for listening. You can listen to this on YouTube and Spotify. Please make sure that you do subscribe, leave a comment, share anything that you can to get the message out there, because we are raising awareness for amazing causes doing this podcast. But again, thank you very much for listening, everybody, and thank you very much again, Paige.
Thank you for having me.
No problem.
And that concludes the first season of You OK Hun. I cannot believe that we've managed to get through 10 episodes of the podcast. I am so grateful for every single one of you. I'm grateful for all of my guests. I'm grateful for all of my listeners, everybody who has shared, everybody who's commented, subscribed. I'm just so grateful to you all, and thank you so much for coming on this journey with me. I am taking a very well needed social media break, which is why I have decided to draw this to an end after 10 episodes, but I will be back with the series 2, so make sure that you do keep your eyes peeled. Follow us on Instagram. You can also subscribe to us on YouTube and Spotify as well. But yeah, like I say, make sure you do keep your eyes peeled, everybody. And once again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much.